Hi, this is Alex Helmreich, the Sports Information Director at Chadron State College, and I'm sitting here this afternoon with Chadron State men's basketball coach Brent Bargan. The Eagles had a successful weekend here at Armstrong Gymnasium, earning an 87-75 victory over visiting New Mexico Highlands, and then followed that up with a nice 91-85 win over Western New Mexico last Saturday night. Coach, just real first off, the impressions of your team. Really, the aggressive team really came to play both nights. You talked about your second half struggles, but the Eagles ended up shooting, I believe, in the two games combined, 78 free throws, making almost 60 of those to shoot at a 75% clip. Obviously, you guys were playing a little tougher and went to the rim a little bit more.
Well, I think that's a style of our opponent, too. They like to get out and pressure you and press a little bit, which opens up the floor some, and we were able to get to the basket through some open lanes and did some adjustments and a little bit of tweaking offensively that allowed us to get to those gaps and be able to make some plays too. So very successful weekend, very happy to be back at home. Finally, it had been a month since we were home. And so, we have played well at home. We really have played some really good games here. And so we've got to be able to continue to hold home court and then hopefully take a little bit of momentum with us on the road.
Highlands entered the game with an 8-6 record, and they were also owned a winning record in the RMAC at 6-4. Chadron State, of course, was 2-11, and it had lost its previous three games, kind of in a tough fashion. But as Coach mentioned in last week's program, they changed a few things. Kind of had a halftime during one of their practices, and ended up scoring 47 points in the second half against Highlands, shooting 53% from the field, but more importantly, 18-22 from the line.
Well, I think in both games we shot, at least 80% from the foul line in both halves, a second half of both games. One was at 81.5, and the other one was at about 80. So we did a great job of closing games out with free throws. And early in the year, we did a great job of shooting free throws in our non-conference schedule. We were one of the best free throw shooting teams in the conference. And then through conference play, for whatever reason, we just have not shot free throws very well. We stayed aggressive. We got to the line and did an unbelievable job of making free throws down the stretch of both games, and that really solidified the win in both cases, kind of stretched it out in one case.
Kevin McClellan finished with a game-high 24 points. That matched a career high for Kevin. He scored that a couple other times. And then Moala Tatua had 15 points, 6 rebounds for the Eagles. But then four others scored at least 8 for Chadron State. And then Tim McDavid had 8 points and then 8 big rebounds coming off the bench.
Well, Tim was a spark for us in the first half. We did not shoot the ball very well against Highlands in the first half and really struggled at times. And he came up with a couple of huge offensive rebounds, just energy plays, hustle plays, toughness-type plays, and kept possessions alive for us. And then he made a couple of real nice backdoors against Kearney. They were doubling Mo, and a couple of other teams have tried that, and we've worked on it some, and thanks to Mo learning what he was doing and Tim having a little bit of instinct there, we really made some nice plays out of there. Mo found him in a couple of backdoor cuts, and we got a couple layups that really started to loosen things up a little bit. And he's a great glue guy. Tim McDavid is a great team guy. He's all about the team. He does whatever it is that's asked of him. He was 4 of 7 from the floor, had 3 offensive rebounds, a total of 8 rebounds. He went for 8 and 8. That's a huge night for him, and only playing 21 minutes, and we need a spark like that. We need those types of hustle plays, and in the Highlands game and in the Western game, we had quite a few more hustle plays, toughness-type plays than what we've been having on the road, and that obviously was the difference in the game.
And then that was followed by a nice 91-85 victory over Western New Mexico. Western New Mexico entered the game after a tough loss at the University of Nebraska-Kearney. They were 5-10 and 5-6 in the RMAC, so kind of right there in the middle of the hunt. And the Eagles really just shrugged off kind of a subpar first 10 minutes. Western New Mexico jumped out to a 13-point lead with about 10:04 to play in the first half, but Chadron State really just kind of fought through it the rest of the first half, really got the ball into Mo down low, and he got some points there at the free throw line. And then in the second half, Chadron State continued to be the aggressive team, going 16 of 20, as Coach mentioned, 80% from the line. Got a huge game from Moala Tatua, scored 30 points. It's a career high. His previous career high was 23, I believe. And he also went over 1,000 points in his career, so I know that was special for you to see him. He's been a guy who's been here for 5 years. Another senior who scored 1,000 points, Kevin McClellan, did that a few weeks ago here in Chadron. So I know that's kind of a nice feather in their caps.
Well, I think starting off with 1,000 points, that's not something that I make a big deal about individual achievements, at least not during the season. I think it's a great thing for both Kevin and Mo for their longevity and their commitment to the program, and those guys really sticking it out and doing stuff when some other guys have not. Right now, it's not as big a deal, but I think at some point to know that those two guys are both in the history books and they're both there while we were here, and the amount of effort and stick-to-itiveness and persistence that they've had in the program and the influence that they've had on some of the other guys in the program, that's a great thing for those two guys, and really care about those two guys a great deal. And we won't make a big deal about it now, but at the end of the year when everything is said and done, hopefully we'll have a nice little thing for them that will honor those guys. As far as the Western New Mexico game, we know how difficult travel is. They're very similar to us. We're as far north as you get, and they're as far south as you get. And so we're familiar with that travel. And when they got out to a 13-0 lead, I think we were not 13-0, but a 13-point lead. We were a little bit on our heels. We were kind of going through the motions. We weren't vested at that point. There wasn't a lot of energy in the gym, and we didn't have a lot of energy amongst ourselves. And I told them we needed to increase tempo. We just needed to keep pushing because I felt that they playing the night before and then traveling, and their total travel for the weekend I think would eventually kind of kick in a little bit. And our kids bought in, and we did that. We really battled and competed, and I think it was a 23-point turnaround there at one point. Where we went down 13 to up 10 through early in the second half, and it was strictly because the kids kept pushing and kept battling and kept pushing tempo, and we were able to get some baskets. And then when they fouled us down the stretch, we made free throws again, which is what you expect. It's not what we've been having all year, but tremendously proud and honored to be the coach of these guys. They really have done some great things, and hopefully that'll continue to go. I was really happy with the game plan. I was happy that the kids carried it out. And the last piece to that is, Kevin has a great weekend. I think he was 13 of 20 from the floor, got to the line many more times, almost 20 times this weekend. And then Mo obviously has 30 points. Those two guys and the other guys on the team letting down their egos and getting those guys the ball in positions where they can score just speaks volumes about the amount of character that we have and the ability for those kids to, say, hey, Mo, we've got an advantage in the post. We need to continue to get the ball in there, and guys did a great job of doing so.
Well, after this successful weekend here at home against the New Mexico schools, the Eagles have kind of put themselves in a position with several other teams in the RMAC to make the final 8 to get to that RMAC postseason tournament. There's a ton of teams with 5 and 6 records. Right now, the Eagles are at 4 and 7. So really, just kind of a game separating a bevy of teams in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. Two of those teams that are kind of ahead of the Eagles in the conference standings, both with at least 5 wins in conference, are the University of Colorado Springs and Colorado State University Pueblo. Chadron State will meet them this weekend. They'll begin at Pueblo on Friday, and then that'll be followed by a game at UCCS on Saturday. Both those games will tip off at a little different time than normal, 7:30 p.m. But Coach, just real fast before I let you get out of here, two teams that you don't play necessarily a lot, but you're actually going to play them twice this year. We'll host both UCCS and Pueblo later in February. But what do you kind of know about these two squads?
Well, Springs was on the east with us, and so we play them twice a year every year. But Pueblo was on the west when we had 2 divisions, and so we only played them once a year. But Pueblo's got a new coach. They're doing a lot of different things offensively. They're very talented offensively. They do a lot of change of defenses. They play several different zones, and they do man some. They are pretty aggressive in their zones, and so they do a lot of change of get you out of your rhythm and try to affect you offensively by changing of defenses. I like their team. I like their squad. They've got a great core group of perimeter players. They rely heavily on 3 particular perimeter guys. And I like their team. I think they can do some really great things after watching them. I just hope that we can guard them and find a way to score some baskets. As far as UCCS, I know they've been playing awfully fast, shooting the 3 ball very, very well. They're getting in the gaps and shooting a lot of threes with kickouts. And Coach, we usually have with Russ, we usually have had some great games with him and his programs, and it's a tough place to play. I know that they'll be geeked and ready to play. Just like last weekend, those two teams are ahead of us now by beating those teams. If we get into a situation, we now own the tiebreaker. So these games are pretty important for us to try to sneak out one on the road at some point so that we can climb back in there. If we could win our home games and find a way to win a couple of road games, we're back to 500 in the conference, and that's where we need to be. And right now, I think the 6th, 7th place teams, those guys are right at about 500 at 6-6. So these are huge games for us. We got to find a way to go take the momentum from last weekend and some confidence from last weekend and take it into this weekend.
All right, Coach. Well, hopefully you can keep things rolling, and best of luck to you this weekend.
Thanks a lot, Alex.